This week's episode is sponsored by Helio Gas Detection. Hey everyone, this is Letty for the Smashing Skull Sessions. I'm joined by Ed from Million Moons. Ed, how are you doing?
Yeah, not bad. How are you?
Oh, good. I've been looking forward to our chat all day.
Oh, excellent. Me too. Me too. We even
Awesome.
started early. Look at that.
Exactly, we're 1 minute early.
I know. It's amazing. No tech issues, nothing.
Touch wood.
Yeah.
To our listeners who maybe haven't heard of you before, could you introduce yourself and your role in the band?
Yeah. So my name's Ed. I'm in a post-rock, heavy post-rock band called Million Moons. And I do guitars and a bit of programming and keyboards. And I'm joined by two others in the band, Freddie on guitars and Solomon on drums, and a touring bassist as well called Daryl, who's really good at guitar too.
All multi-instrumentalists in the band.
Yes, except the drummer, of course.
As a
Actually,
drummer, I can relate.
oh really? Yeah, he's very into his music theory though, so I would give him a lot of credit with regards to that.
That's a whole other beast on its own, like.
Yeah, it's pretty cool and rare for a drummer as well. So I love having a drummer who's into that sort of thing. It's great.
It's very cool. How did the band start?
We started out in London, and I was trying to find like-minded musicians um, to form a post-rock band, and it took me quite a few years. I was playing in other bands at the time, and yeah, it took me quite. I was writing a lot of music, and I probably had some kind of, I don't know, 40 or 50 demos, kind of ready, and I sort of played them with other folk, and it just kind of didn't really take off. Like trying to find the like-minded musicians. Enter Solomon into the picture. We were playing together in another band, and I found out that he was into post-rock as well, and so we decided to give it a whirl. So we started writing and recording just the two of us together. So we got our first album out, Gap in the Clouds, in 2022, and then our second one out just now, at the moment, which we're in the process of releasing.
Awesome. Your second album, as you just mentioned, I May Be Sometime, is out the 5th of July. How was the recording process for it?
It was very easy, like remarkably easy. Like working with we worked with Lewis Johns, who's a producer based at the Ranch Studios down south in Southampton, and he just made life really easy for us. So I can't sing his praises enough. It was great. Obviously, a recording comes with a certain layer of assumed stress, I suppose, is probably a way of putting it. But the process itself was very, I think we were pretty well rehearsed, and our experimentation went quite nicely, and we had enough time as well, kind of to play about with stuff. And the recording process was, yeah, came out really nicely, and was about as, I say easy, but that's not the right word, really. I would say about as least stressful as you can expect it to be is probably a more nuanced way of putting it.
Pretty smooth sailing.
Yeah. Relatively smooth sailing. Obviously hiccups along the way, but I did a lot in my I do a lot of like recording of stems before ahead of time, and then reamping in the studio and messing about with effects pedals and amps and different combinations in different room spaces and stuff like that. And then yeah, recording live drums as well in the studio too. And the ranch has got this big, beautiful live room with just really nice acoustics, and I think it just really suited our sound. I think in that respect, it was really easy to get the sound we wanted because the live room was really nice, and Lewis is obviously very used to working in that particular space. So yeah,
Yeah, it makes all the difference, especially on the drums when it's like in a nice big boomy kind of space.
yeah, just beautiful kind of room reverbs. Yeah, lovely.
Awesome. How did you come up with the concepts for the album? Because I read the little press thing and it sounds absolutely wild.
Yeah. I mean, so there's a couple of books which are like pretty gnarly. I like kind of stories of explorers and stuff like that across this spectrum. And there's a few books. There's one by Henry Worsley called The White Darkness, which is, or it's not by him, but it's about him, which is his story of doing kind of trans-Antarctic solo expeditions, which is absolutely crazy. I mean, just everything that you kind of come across, and the idea of like dragging a kind of 100 kilo sled or whatever it is on your own in a blizzard where you don't know which way is up because everything is white, and you're just kind of and there's this description of the white darkness, and you start hallucinating different things because you don't know which way is up, and you're just, you know, one foot in front of the other. That to me is just, really captivating. I would say this is more kind of inspired by other trans-Antarctic expeditions, but they kind of all kind of encapsulated, like captured by the general concept, and reflected and hopefully reflected in our music, which is kind of written to that concept. I think in post-rock, it's quite hard to find something which isn't, there's a lot of kind of cliches of like even our band name, for example, you know, you could argue it's a bit of a post-rock cliche. Oh, the dog is getting bored, so he's gone. Um, bye, mate. um, yeah, there's a few post-rock cliches, I suppose, you know, with like space and travel and, you know, ethereal concepts and that kind of stuff. So we sort of try to shy away a little bit from that. Our first record was kind of an exploration into different facets of the topic of dementia. So quite, you know, also quite serious, quite heavy stuff. And our second one is kind of, yeah, delving into these amazing stories and kind of these personal stories of, um, I would say adventure, but, you know, distress and difficulty and challenge and overcoming challenge and that kind of the mental space that people put themselves into in order to achieve these feats. And then we keep coming up with other ideas for future ones as well, which is great. So I've started writing for our next record too,
Ooh.
based on a concept, kind of, well, without sort of leaking too much, but like kind of on like evolutionary processes and Earth history and stuff like that, and development of the mind and brains and things like that. It's quite, I don't know, things that really interest me.
Very deep topics.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, nothing is. I think post rock is kind of like it has to be quite sincere. You know, you don't get any kind of. You do get kind of lighter post rock, but it's still quite sincere. Even stuff that's written in major keys is quite serious, and I think we're no exception to that. I think we write stuff and it tends to be quite. Um, it might be major key, minor key, whatever it is, but actually it's kind of, yeah, sincere.
Post rock is the new emo then.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, emo is an interesting one because I think a lot of the people who are now writing post rock were probably into emo back in the day. I have to confess. Well, I still do like a bit of My Chemical Romance every now and then. But I mean, Black Parade, one album, amazing. Um, but um, but I think, yeah, I do wonder what the correlation of listening to emo as a teenager and now writing post rock as a kind of 30 something, 40 something. I wonder how many people are doing that. I'd be very interested to see the intersection there. Interesting.
It's very funny that you bring that up because there's so many like correlations. Like a lot of the hardcore dudes, like they're all like, yeah, we grew up listening to Blink 182 and Sum 41. Is like, how did you get that into your music? Because they're like just polar opposites.
Yeah, completely, completely. I totally see that. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, but there must be a journey there that's that I'd love, yeah, I'd love to see how people pick that pathway.
There needs to be like some sort of like science study done on that. 100%.
That'd be
Uh,
excellent.
do you have a favorite memory while recording the album?
Ooh, favorite memory whilst recording the album. I remember getting the stuff back for the first time and just being like, wow, we need so few changes. That just sounds amazing. Um, which was just excellent. I remember just, I think I think I was traveling at the time. Um, and I just got the link back and I was desperately trying to download stuff on like a slow Wi-Fi connection. And of course, there's a WAV file, so it's enormous. You're like, oh, come on. And then I got one of them and I was like, wow, that's just exactly what we were after. And it just sounded so good. So remarkably, like I say, remarkably straightforward. I was pretty blown away by how yeah, the sound that we got back. So dead proud of that, definitely. That was a happy memory.
That's got to be a pretty amazing feeling as well with like so little changes once you get like the first master back.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And that makes, I mean, that makes life a lot easier. But I think we get that through, or you tend to get that if you like if you've communicated what you're after in the first place and you've picked a producer who you're also happy to let loose a little bit on it. Then after that, the sound comes back and you're like, oh yeah, that's what we asked for, multiplied by the creative flair of the producer we picked. What more could you want? It's great. Lewis has also got a super cute dog, and my dog, with his dog together, snuggled on the couch, was just adorable. So that was lovely.
What dog do you have?
I've got a Labrador. He's sniffing around. He's not very well at the moment. He's got a little
Ah,
nappy on. Ralphie, come say hi. Who's this?
say hello to the YouTube audience.
Hi. Say hi. But he's been there through both the albums we recorded. The first album we recorded, he came down, and he was with us there with George, George Lever, and then yeah, with Lewis and his little dog, and that was adorable. Just the two of them snuggled on this little couch.
Do they have writing credits?
Oh, they should. That's true, actually. I'll put you on, boy. Don't worry.
If you could collaborate with any musician, dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh, maybe like Sigur Rós or Beyoncé or um, the lads from Mew. Do you know the band Mew?
I don't.
They're like a what would you avant-garde art rock, Danish art rock. I tend to have I love that kind of Scandi scene of sort of more ethereal stuff. But yeah, I mean I wouldn't I would be I think Beyoncé would be a little offended if I asked to collaborate with him, but you know, it would be that would be the dream. Just be so out of my depth, I think. It would just be wonderful. Yeah.
Be
I
an
think they
interesting sound.
are such an interesting sound. And their use of like instrumentation and their experimentation with different um instruments is wonderful. And I wish I had I'm gonna make excuses now for why I don't do it. And obviously I don't have the resources to have access to like you know, all of the different kind of um like instruments that they end up using and interesting like niche organ sounds and things like that. Um, but some of the stuff that they do is just super creative, and just gives me ideas. Like even just watching that some of their like you know, following them around on the studio and just seeing what they get up to. It's just really interesting and how they play with sound. I just think it's yeah, a very interesting way of working. I would love more time. I mean, who wouldn't love more studio time? I just yeah, I would love more studio time. That would just be great. I have my mini studio in the corner of the room just here, which is great. And it provides a certain layer for experimentation. But yeah, I would love like lots of like different instruments and yeah.
Just
Um,
have everything on hand.
yeah, yeah, and just be able to play with like people go mad for effects pedals and they're great. Um, up to a point, I think there's only so much sort of experimentation you can do. After that, I think you kind of need to branch out into like techniques of recording and production and that kind of thing, and try and get a little bit like yeah, branch out a little bit with
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
There's a great scene in I don't know if you've seen the Black Album documentary where it shows Metallica recording it,
I
but
haven't no.
there's a I think it's like day 54 or something, but they bring in like all these like world instruments to add layers to the album. And Lars just picks up a cowbell and starts hitting it, and your man who brought the instruments just looks at him and just gives him the weirdest look like, out of all the instruments, you choose this.
Cowbell.
Yeah,
Brilliant. That's great.
classic Lars.
We haven't had any moments like that, but I can see Solomon's definitely the sort of person. I can see that happening in the studio at some point in the future.
We'll see it on album free.
Exactly. Featuring cowbell.
Million Moons is a really cool band name. Is there a story behind how you came up with this, or?
Not really. I can't remember exactly. I remember we were kind of spitballing on like different stuff with regards to a certain number of names, and like I think we were talking about festivals and how the festival 2000 Trees is a cool name for a festival, and we kind of went off on one about or what else would be called 5,000 Fish or maybe a Million Moons, that kind of thing. And then ended up going, oh, not bad. Well, working title, and then never found anything better. And that's always the trouble, isn't it? Trying to find something that's good, trying to find something that's sincere, like snappy, works with the brand. Mm. It's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you
There's
can
some
always
great names out there. There's some really, really good names out there. Dinner Celestial Birds. Oh, what a band name. Beautiful. But there's also some shocking ones out there as well in the post-rock space. We probably sit somewhere in the middle, hopefully.
I think grindcore has some of like the most disgusting band names.
Yeah, that really does. Yeah, 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 for sure.
Suits the scene though.
Hmm. It works. It works with the brand. It's all on brand, completely on brand. Yeah.
And you can always make the joke is when you're together like 30 years later, you can say a million moons ago this band was formed.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that. That's gonna be great. When we're grayer and older, we can definitely make that as a joke. That would be excellent.
Heard it here first.
Yeah, we have to credit you for that.
Do you have any favorite album releases of 2024 so far? Any that you've heard that you really like?
Favorite album releases of 2024? That is a good question. Um, do I have a decent answer for that to my head? Um, I'm gonna have a look through my week and some of my new releases to see if anything comes to mind.
No worries.
Yeah.
Been a pretty decent year anyway.
It has. I mean, if you'd asked me a gig, I would have said it's the Mew gig I went to. I went to see Mew at the Barbican, and I was blown away. And that was absolutely wonderful. And I've actually just been like listening to so much of them this year as well, which is kind of lame. Sort of need to branch out at some stage. But that's like my standout musical moment of 2024. It was with a chamber orchestra as well, so a small orchestra, and it was just one of the most beautiful experiences I think that I've had. Um, and it's nice to be sat down at a gig sometimes, just be able to like proper appreciate and properly admire. That was lovely.
And you're never as tired at a sitting gig, like after standing.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. Yeah, yeah,
So that's your favorite musical moment of the year so far.
I would say so. Yeah. Yeah.
Fair enough. And we're on to our last question. Do you have any advice for anyone wanting to start a band in 2024?
That's a good question. Any advice? Um, yeah, I mean, I suppose just keep working at it. Keep working. You get the kind of oscillations of motivation where you think, oh, yes, this is great. This is going really well. And then other times where you're kind of down in the dumps and you're like, oh, this is such a struggle. This is a challenge. But having the kind of drive to just keep going at it, I think is ultimately what kind of breeds some kind of success. Um, being very, I think being very careful as to picking the right people to work with, both the musicians that you're kind of with and um, where you record and who you record with. I think that makes a big difference. That's definitely like amplified our sound a lot. I think that would be, yeah. And yeah, just got to keep working at it. I'm kind of telling myself that again, and it's always the case. You just have to, yeah, just yeah. And finding that like there's a lot to be said for like the time and just like making the time to be able to do it because there's quite a lot of occasions where you think, oh, I could do that, but actually I'm going to do something else just now. Um, or I could do some writing, but actually I'm not going to. I'm just gonna.
You need to find balance as well and not like burn yourself out.
Yeah. I'm lucky up here. So I live in Orkney, and I'm currently in Orkney. And I live right by the sea, which is real nice. And it's allows me a lot of time to kind of sit and think, oh, it would be really interesting to put a glockenspiel sound over that particular melody or whatever it is, that kind of thing. Or when I'm on the little dog walks and I've got the sea breeze, often pretty pokey breeze, bit more of a, storm up here, but that kind of thing. And yeah, the second Moons record was written in about 3 or 4 months in the kind of lockdown period, um, when I moved up here. Um, which was remarkable. Like I just had so much time to think, and it was just so easy. So yeah, I would say it's definitely not going off on too much of a tangent, but definitely like finding the time, prioritizing the time to kind of do things. And the drudgery of band admin is a shame, but it's a necessary evil, I think,
You've got
unfortunately.
the sea to keep you calm.
Yeah, I mean it is. Like I dive a lot and that's like my happy place. And I just go out diving and just jump in the sea and go and look at like anemones and cold water corals and things like that. And that's just like a super kind of yeah, super happy place for me. And I'm lucky that I can just kind of access it. But yeah, definitely the sea is amazing. And
Yeah,
aliens
well,
exist. They just live in the sea. Like some of the creatures down there, you're like what is that? And it's an actual living thing. And that's
um,
kind of part of the inspiration probably for our next concept, I think, is just like the things in the sea are just wild, like wild in so many different senses. But yeah, it's great.
what was your dream dive destination be?
Oh, that's a very good question. Um, I'm not really like a bucket listy type person. I'm very much a like experience is the journey, journey is the experience, type thing. I'm lucky to have dived in a fair few places. Some of my favorite dives are like I've got like a grimy pier, for example, just here. And it looks like I don't know if you can see that. Like you see that pier, it's nice and
Yeah,
and you're like, it just looks like an industrial sort of wasteland. But underneath is absolutely amazing. There's all these like you get loads of like sand eels and anemones and corals and all kinds of stuff just right there. And it's just you go for a little snorkel or go for a dive and um it's not a dream dive destination, but like there's just so much that's just hiding and it's just under the sea and you think the sea is cold and grey and you don't go into it, but actually, oh, it's amazing what's underneath. And obviously, like I love being diving in, like if you're diving in just you know a thin wetsuit and not very much in warm water and staring at beautiful, colorful fish. That's obviously great in the tropics. But there's a lot of good diving kind of all over. I think Antarctica is probably the dream. That's probably the dream. I don't
that'd
know
be
how.
pretty cool. See some narwhals.
So I know somebody who worked there for a while, and he's like the only creature that you want to really be careful of is the elephant seal. And if you see one of those in the water, get
Run.
out as quickly as you can. Um, but yeah, can you imagine the peace of being like in that kind of environment with like surrounded by icebergs or something? That's just
Be so tranquil.
it works. Yeah, yeah. As long as you don't get stuck.
Yep. It's always the big fear.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Ed, thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with me.
Yeah, not at all. Thanks, Letty. Appreciate
No
it.
problem. And I maybe some time is out now.
Brilliant. Have a listen.